Hey, welcome to the Gig Life Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Taylor. A couple of quick things before we chat to Mr. Abe Rounds. If you're enjoying the Gig Life Podcast, please subscribe, set your app to auto-download so the new episodes come straight to your phone, tablet or computer. Share, tell your friends about us. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a 5-star review. All the episodes are free, no payment required ever to listen to the Gig Life Podcast. If you see the value in the Gig Life Podcast, you can donate. So there's a link to that at thegiglifepodcast.com. All right, sweet as. Here's Abe.
Perfect flip of an A, perfect dunk in the net. It's a song in my head that I couldn't forget. A sunset at the beach, an impeccable spliff. It's where I wanna be.
My guest today is Abe Rounds, a drummer, bass player, songwriter and producer from Sydney, but now living in LA. Abe first picked up the drumsticks and started playing when he was age 1. His father is legendary Sydney bass player Victor Rounds, so as you can imagine, there was music in the house right from the beginning. Jamming with Victor's musician friends was commonplace and there was invaluable lessons learned there. Abe went to Newtown Performing Arts School and also studied with some local drumming legends. He was playing clubs from the age of 16 and cutting his teeth in the Sydney music scene at a very young age. Then he decided he wanted to go to Berklee School of Music in Boston, so at age 20, he left Sydney for the US. It was there he met legendary bass player, singer, songwriter Michelle Indagiacello, who came to Berklee to do a masterclass, and Abe was chosen to play with her. So from there, Michelle asked Abe to join her band, which he still does to this day. Abe has also gone on to play with Seal, Dole Bramham Jr., Blake Mills, Pino Palladino, Madison Cunningham, Mike Elizondo, Jeff Babco, and many, many others. Abe and his friend Jake Sherman have their own original project called Jake and Abe. The track you're listening to now is called It's Easy, and that's by Jake and Abe. I caught up with Abe when he was back in Sydney for the Christmas holidays. Such a cool hang. Hope you enjoy this chat. Ladies and gentlemen, give the drummer some. It's Abe Rounds. Cheers. I think we're rolling.
Yes.
Yeah. Abe Rounds, welcome to the Gig Life Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Stevie.
How are you?
Appreciate it.
No worries, man. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. You're in town. You're from, or you're living in LA at the moment. And
That's
you're home for Christmas.
Yeah, I'm just home for Christmas, spending time with the family.
Yep.
Doing all kinds of Aussie things that I miss out in.
Yep.
Living in America.
Mm-hmm.
All the classic things I love and miss, like going to the beach and eating seafood and drinking Australian beer and catching up with my mates and all those things.
And you went to the cricket?
Went to the cricket with my grandma like 2 days ago, which was amazing. And it was very hot, but we survived a couple of sessions.
Oh, so that was the super hot day.
That was the super hot day.
Wow, man.
Which is crazy. My grandma was actually really down to go. I was like, I don't know, Grandma, if we should do that. And she was like, no, let's do it. I was like, all right. Took the bus in and watched Marnus get his double ton.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to bring that up, obviously.
It's fine. It's okay. I'm kind of cool with the cricket. Just don't talk about super overs.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Oh, man.
World Cup.
Yeah.
I try and catch up on the cricket when I'm back home, when I'm living in the States. It's, just some nice nostalgia.
Yeah.
I grew up playing cricket too. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And golf as well, yeah?
Yeah, big time. Golf. I kind of wanted to be a golfer. I still kind of do, but there's no chance. But I play golf a lot, and I play it every day.
You still play?
Yeah. I was going to play today, but I played yesterday.
Yep.
It's just nice. It takes my mind off things. It's a game. It's a singular sport, so just you.
Yeah.
And it's like a mind game, really, and allows me to take my mind off other things that are going on.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I went through this phase of playing golf.
Yeah, cool.
Mates kind of jumped on the golf thing and ended up destroying my back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my discs. I mean, my technique.
Just playing golf?
Just from playing golf, from the spinning of the trunk.
Just going too hard.
Just trying to.
Yeah, people think it's not athletic, but it is.
Yeah,
and you kind of have to warm up and like sort of stretch a bit before you just go and start smacking the ball.
Yeah. So actually, we're doing a bit of a clean up at home. So I found my old clubs and I've actually put them up for sale today.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm donating that money to Wires.
Oh,
you know,
cool.
the Wildlife Rescue Fund for the animals
awesome.
of bushfires. That's something I wanted to mention too. Like, you would have been in LA through the LA bushfires.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The Malibu ones that just happened and took out a whole bunch of houses and people. And like, then there was all that controversy about like celebrities and rich people getting their own private fire brigades.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Imagine that if that happened here. Like if somebody hired, that probably doesn't even exist here, but yeah, people were hiring their own personal fire brigades, and while other people were getting destroyed. It's pretty nuts.
What? Wow, that's crazy.
I think Kanye. Yeah.
Fuck that guy, man. Sorry.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah. So how does it compare to that? I mean, like the atmosphere, and were you getting the smoke, that kind of thing down where you were? Or was it
yeah, a little bit, but it was kind of like more on the coast, like north of where I am.
Right.
So I wasn't getting as much, but I remember I did fly out last year here, and that's when the fires were on, and we flew over it, and I was wow, crazy. Right. And I actually was just driving a few months ago. I was played a gig in San Francisco and drove down to Joshua Tree, which is the desert in California.
Yep.
And we drove through sort of like south from San Francisco, but not along the coast, through the mountains and the canyons, and they were on fire. And that was crazy.
Oh,
we were driving through it.
Yeah. A couple of months ago.
Dad's here with beers.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, we'll stop for a sec.
No, it's all good. You can keep that part of it.
Yeah.
Dad said that the Prime Minister lived on this street, Dad? John Howard.
Really? Lives on this street?
Oh, he was born here?
Oh, right. I was going to say.
He was a young member for Cobra.
Oh, right.
When he was a young Liberal.
Yeah, right.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
You're not recording, are you?
Oh, totally. All of it. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's all...
I won't take chips, but I'll take a beer.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, come on.
I don't think honey soy chicken chips exist in America.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're loving all that. It's the same when I go back to New Zealand.
Right.
Like there's food.
What do you miss the most? Do you eat meat? Lamb?
Not so much but New Zealand make a bacon and egg pie.
Oh.
Like
I've never had a
pastry
bacon and egg
pie. So you might have had like a quiche or...
Yeah.
The bacon and egg pie, it's got little bits of onion in it, and it's just the best thing. So when I go back there,
Does it have gravy in it?
No.
No. Okay.
No, it's just bacon and egg
pie.
in a pie. It's the best thing. Yeah, and my mum and dad make them now, so when they come down, they always bring a homemade bacon and egg pie. It's the best. Thank you, sir.
Squires.
Oh, nice. Lashes.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. We're just talking about the fires, eh?
We were talking about the fires. I just watched the Golden Globes with my mum on the TV. And it's crazy. Like all of Hollywood were talking about the fires and everyone's donated.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, it's been outstanding.
Yeah, I think Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, they gave $500,000.
Yeah. Did you hear about that Aussie comedian? She started off.
Right, I heard about this.
Started off at 30,000, right?
Now it's like 30 million?
Nearly 35 million.
Jeez, that's amazing.
It is
sick.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I want to figure out something that I can do myself.
Yeah, we've donated a little bit, donate a little bit to Wires and also to RFS. But I just thought with my golf clubs today, whatever cash I get for that, I just give it to Wires,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, man. Well, let's roll back to beginning for you, right? So, from born in Sydney, And you got a pretty cool dad.
I do. Very fortunate to have a cool dad, cool family. Everyone's cool.
Yep. Victor Rounds, pretty well-known guy around these parts. Yep. So you started playing drums when you were 1, is that right?
Yeah, that's how it goes, apparently. I think I was just banging on pots and pans, and then I was gifted a tiny drum set, I think, when I was 1 or 2 for Christmas or something, or birthday, and then it all kind of went from there, I think, yeah.
Right. Oh, let's stay back there for a bit.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so...
let me put myself in my 1-year-old.
Yeah. Trying to think back to... No. So do you have early memories of, being at jams with your dad and people at the house jamming and...
Yep. I think the first bass player that I played with jamming, I think Dad will tell you this, it was Mark Costa.
Oh, yeah, really?
Before Dad.
Yeah, right.
I don't know how I was then, like maybe like 4 or 5 or something. I think he was the first bass player jam with.
Oh, wicked.
But I remember I would just go to every gig of Dad's that, and he, I don't think we really had babysitters. So it's like I would if Mum would be working at the salon, I think, she's a hairdresser. And so I would go to every rehearsal with Dad and go to most gigs and be on the side with headphones, with earmuffs, and just be around all the musos.
Just taking it in.
Yeah.
And then you go home and play?
Yeah, I think I would just play all the time. I would come straight from kindy or whatever with the backpack and just jump on the drums and play all night, day.
That's cool.
Then I'd pretend I was gigging and like set the drums up and off and put them in my fake cardboard car and go to do gigs and then like get really upset and cry when I could put the cymbal stand back together.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, did you get lessons early on?
I didn't get lessons at all until I think I was probably like 12 or 13. I got my first drum. I had drum lessons from just being around all these great drummers that my dad played with. Number one being Con Centenary. Yep. So he was probably my biggest influence in person, from that age, from like 1 to 10, around that. So I would go to his house and we would jam, and he would play congas and he would play drums. He would show me things. He would teach me like the drum fill from Diamonds and Pearls, Prince. Right. We'd sit there and like try and learn it for like a day. So Con was probably the teacher that I sort of just I soaked in a lot from him, but not through like sitting down and learning rudiments and learning all the different feels that are dotted out. That was more just from listening and being around Con. And then I think about 12 or 13, I got drum lessons from Bill Cazellos. Mm-hmm. And he taught me a lot. He taught me some bit of technique stuff and went through all those Weckl things and all those books, the GAD book. Mm-hmm. I had a lesson with Gordy at some point, I think. Maybe just even at a barbecue we had a lesson at a Gordy barbecue. Cool. And then as I got older and like I went to Newtown High School Performing Arts, so like there was an amazing music program there. So I was learning about all kinds of things that weren't just drums. And I got vibraphone lessons. And then I started playing in the big bands and then having to read music. So yeah, I guess you could say I was getting lessons formally and both informally. Yeah. And you've played bass most of your life too, eh? Yeah, when Dad's not looking. Yeah. I would pretend I was Marcus Miller or Larry Graham on his basses and break a lot of strings. And I started playing the bass when I was like 12 or 13. I was loving it. Okay. And I've always loved the bass. Who were some of the early, not local drummers, but like outside influences drumming wise? Okay. So you spoke about the Weckl and the GAD books. And right. But Weckl was never really like a big thing for me. My main influence was Manu Katché. Yep. So like from the age of 4 till like 10, like all I listened to was Manu Katché. Sting stuff and all the Sting, but mainly Peter Gabriel's Secret World Live. Yeah. I think I know that probably off by heart. everything, can sing everything.
Right.
I would just watch it like on the VHS tape, like just over and over and over.
Yeah.
I'd learn all of Manu's things. Had a splash cymbal, like a bunch of splash cymbals. China, which is kind of a weird. That's come to think of it, that's a terrible name for a cymbal. And I would just try and play like Manu, and that was like my first drumming influence. And then from then it was Steve Gadd, and it was pretty much Steve Gadd everything up until maybe I made the move to the States, and then I like found out more about drummers that came out of the church in America, and like Chris Dave was a big influence to me. And then then it just became everyone, and just started listening to everyone, you know.
Yeah.
But Gadd and Manu was like the ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first paid gig?
My first paid gig, I think, it was that wasn't like a gig with sitting in with Dad somewhere. I think it was the Astral Bar on top of Star City Casino when I was 16. Mm-hmm. And it was with Daniel Mifsud and Ben Rogers. Mm-hmm. And maybe it was Stu Hunter on keys or something like that. And I remember it vividly because I was 16 and you can't be in the casino when you're 16. And Dan and Ben just lied and were like, yeah, he's 18. And we walked through the casino because you had to go through the casino with the gear on the trolley. Yeah. And then like catch the elevator all the way up. The Astral Bar was the rooftop bar. Mm-hmm. And we went up there and played a gig. And I think they might have even got fired from the gig or like got reprimanded because they were like, we can't be this 16-year-old kid. And I think I did the gig and it was like $250 or something. Right. Which is like, how good is that when you're 16?
Yeah, that's right. Do you remember what you did with the money?
Honestly, I didn't spend money when I was that age. Like I wish I was a bit more like that now. Like I would just save everything. Like by the time I was 18, like I had like a good, decent like little bank kitty set up just from gigging on the weekends at high school and just saving it.
Right, that's cool.
Because I was just at school and living at home. So
right, and that would have set you up well for when you went overseas, I suppose, eh?
It did. I mean, well, there was a whole lot of things that happened before I went overseas. It was a great start. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right, so let's sort of roll on a bit from the first gig. Was that a band put together just for that night? Did they asked you to come and play, or was that? Yeah. Did that start to become a band that you were regularly playing with?
Oh, I played with Dan a bit. I'd say I probably did like 10 gigs. Yep. A lot of different. I think even like his own original gig in Cronulla. Mm-hmm. There was a place called the Brass Monkey.
Yeah, still there.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
Awesome. And that was part of a clique of like Joy Yates and Dave McRae, the sort of like Jubilee Choir people. Everyone who came out of that, like Mark and Anthony with the Hipstones, Jay McRae, all those kinds of, all those singers that were part of that. Like I was getting sort of gigs in and around that. That was a great time for me because I was actually gigging so much. That's probably where I learnt the most, honestly, about being a working drummer, if you want to use that word. Yeah. And a musician and how to deal with being a musician and living on your own and stuff.
Okay, so you'd moved out of home.
I moved out of home. I was like 18 to Bondi, and I was living with an amazing, still one of my best friends now, Marcello Mayo. Mm-hmm. I don't know, you might know, incredible keys playing accordion player. Mm-hmm. So I lived with him, and I would just gig like 7 or 8 times a week. Right. And it was awesome. Like, I mean, I don't know, who was I playing? Like Steve Clisby and, the Sydney vibe where you just get like a wedding gig and a corporate gig, and then you might get like a Brazilian gig and a salsa gig, covers gig, funk gig, and then like a whatever. I was doing Jersey Boys, right. The theatre, the show, like Capitol Theatre. Yeah. I was like the most weird looking band member of the Four Seasons. Because the drummer was on the stage. So it was just like, what the hell? This is not the drummer that plays in the Four Seasons. Yeah. So I was learning a lot, and I owe a lot so much to Sydney. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the different styles of gigs that you were doing. So you Were you already sort of up on those styles of music, having learnt them at your school or
I think
teachers?
Just being around it and hearing it a lot and jamming with people who are like
and then going and working
much
it out.
better than me and like just getting thrown in. That's just the best way to learn.
Yeah.
I was surrounded by such great musicians that I was just soaking it all in.
Yeah.
And playing a lot of different kinds of music.
Yep.
And listening to a lot of different kinds. But it was still a little narrow, I feel, at that time, like what I was listening to. It wasn't until I moved to America that it really opened
up. Right. Yeah. Okay. So we'll move forward a little bit to when did this decision come to apply for Berklee?
Okay, so that came...
Or have we missed something?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I was just...
We could talk about all the gigs, but you know, whatever.
It's all good. I guess I was sort of at a place around that time, that age, 18, 19, and I would finish high school. But I was kind of I was making a good living just being a muso, and I felt like I had played... I've been very fortunate to have played with all the people I wanted to in Sydney, and I was going through some stuff in my life, and I thought that it would be cool. Also, my parents were, it was a collective decision to sort of like, let's give a go, try out and go for Berklee in Boston, because a lot of people I admire have been there, and it seems like let's just take a plunge and try it. And they had international auditions, so they had auditions here in Sydney.
Right.
So I went down to, what was it then? JMC, maybe?
Yep.
Academy in Surrey Hills. And auditioned, and I was lucky I got a half scholarship, so I could just afford to like make the move. And I did, thanks to the backing of my parents. They helped me out a lot, and thankfully the dollar was 1-to-1 back then.
Yeah.
It was actually stronger. Australian dollar was a little stronger.
At one point, yeah.
Which is crazy because like I could not have gone to college now.
Right.
Like forget it. And also just living in the States, what you forget about is when you go to college, not only is college very expensive, but just living in, if you choose to take the college, like the traditional American college route, and you do the room and board and you live in the campus and all that, it's like you're paying like $16,000 a semester just to live.
Jeez.
in flat in a one bedroom style sort of dorm with two other people and eat the American canteen food.
Right.
So
you didn't do that.
I did not do that. I just rented an apartment and just lived very frugally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the audition.
Mm-hmm.
What did the audition entail? Did you know what you had to do before you got there? Did they send you a bit of a brief of what they might?
No, I think
you just rocked up and they just said, "Hey, let's try this."
I think the audition process for Berklee is you just come in and you play something that you're comfortable with, like you do something that showcases who you are.
Right. And what did you do?
I mean, no one really. I didn't know who I was at that point. Still don't know that, but I played with Con.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we played. I think we played like a samba thing that we had played a lot together, like a little original thing.
Yeah,
like
great.
That was, I think, Con and Sunil's thing.
Yeah, right.
Sunil De Silva.
Yeah.
So we played this samba vibe, and that's when I was way into that stuff. So I was going for it, and then I believe they give you things to read. They ask you questions and little tests, and then you like speak to a international coordinator who represents international studies for Berklee, and that was about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember your mindset going into it? You scared?
Excited? Honestly, I don't think I was that scared because it wasn't a be and end all thing for me.
Okay.
It was just something like, let's give this a go.
Yeah, right.
I think I was more scared on like HSC.
Yeah, right.
You know, which is so strangely, there's so much pressure in the HSC. It feels like it's like everything is like your whole life is leaning on your score in HSC, or I don't know what it's called now, the ATAR or something. So I think that was more nerve-wracking for me. Yeah. Plus, it's just weird to like play music for like a panel of people judging, critiquing.
Yeah.
When
very sterile, eh?
Yeah, it's just like I don't understand.
I've kind of got this picture in my head of the room.
Oh yeah, it's like
but I don't know. I've never been there.
You like walk into this. Okay, you picture like a high ceiling like school assembly hall, like with horrible acoustics for any kind of music you're trying to. Well, maybe not anything. Like I'm sure if I was playing like a solo violin piece, it would be beautiful.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to play like Chicoria acoustic trio
nice
or something,
and tight.
Like, and you go in and it's like a long walk to the. Like it feels like a long walk to where the gear is set up, and then there's like 3 people in like jackets who are like, oh, they're from the con, and then they give you a mark based on your. But that's how it works. That's just how that machine works.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I guess if you just be yourself and try and not worry about that shit, it's cool. Yeah.
How long did you have to wait till you knew if you got in?
Honestly, I think I got an email like a few months later or something like that.
A few months, right?
Yeah. It's just on my phone. It's like, oh, you've been offered this, whatever, to go to the States.
Right.
And then, thankfully, that was at the point in my life where my parents had actually split and they had to sell the family house. So they had some bread available and they were willing to sponsor me if so.
Yeah, cool.
So I'm grateful for that.
That's awesome.
And that was 2011.
Okay.
Yeah. Crazy.
All right, so you packed up, you said goodbye, get on the plane, landed in Boston. Sorry, I was going to say LA, but we'll get to that.
Land in Boston in snow. Yep.
Right, okay. Did you were you starting school pretty much straight away? Or did you go and
I think I had like 2 weeks of like receptions and get like, all the pre-college things you have to do to set up and get all your textbooks and go to like where you get assigned somebody who looks after a group of 50 people and they become your community group or something, and then you find the Australians in Boston.
I was going to ask you, were there any other Australians?
Yeah, I think there was probably about 20 there.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And you just go about. I mean, it was really hard, to be honest, just to like come from here, being like somebody who was working, doing my thing, playing whatever, to go there and just like have to like forget about all that and just be like, I'm a college student. Culture shock, snowing, America. It's just different.
Yeah.
Different way of life, different social, culturally, like, and the food. It's like really hard. It's different over there, and also just getting thrust into basically going to a jazz school. So I just went straight into that, into the jazz hole. Right.
Were you ready for jazz? Had you kind of...
I had been playing it, but a lot of it had come through not really knuckling down and like learning the history, as they say. But I was playing big band jazz.
Yep.
So I came into Berklee with a real kind of like bulging, like heavy swing beat.
Yeah.
Which was like... I thought was the vibe, like Buddy Rich-ish like vibe, because I've been playing in a big band and having to drive that, and it was just like no, like, no touch, no, like no real sense of like playing in a smaller group and playing with a little bit more dynamic. So I learned a lot, and I got hit like a ton of bricks, like not physically, but yes, spiritually and emotionally, all those things.
So was that the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think it was, and also just trying to assimilate into the lifestyle and the college life and the amount of music and the amount of feelings I had for realizing that, I don't actually really know much, which is silly because you do. You come in with what you know, and everyone comes from all around the world with what they know and how they feel and how they hear music. So it's hard to get everyone to adhere to one program. It's hard to like institutionalize something like jazz, which is like so free, and it's an art form that chooses not to sort of obey any rules. So it was all these things going on, and also just being 20 in the States. Yeah,
right.
And also not gigging. It was just like, I'm literally here.
Yeah, I was going to ask what.
Playing, like practicing in a room. There's 800 drummers at Berklee. There's 1,000 guitarists, 1,200 singers. You know, you just...
Where are you going to find a gig?
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's playing their asses off, and like, it's like going to a gym for music. It's like everyone is just flexing their chops, and
gotcha.
People aren't afraid to tell you, tell you and show you and make you realize how good they are.
Yeah, sure.
So it was a tough period, but amongst all that, it was I found people that I gravitated to, and professors and teachers, and I just sort of forged my own little way through it, because you can really go there and just get destroyed and just blown over totally if you don't sort of have a mindset of like, okay, I'm here, it's costing money, like maybe I should really just knuckle down and find the teachers I want to learn from and really seek those people out and try and learn as much from them as possible while I'm here, you know?
Yeah.
And if you sort of just kind of chill back, you just get rolled over.
Right. Did you see some people sort of go down that route of getting spat out the other end?
Yeah, I have friends. I had one friend who like had full mental breakdown, depression, like couldn't deal with it, you know?
Right.
You know, you go and practice in a drum practice. They have this like, they call it the basement. There's like 40 drum practice rooms, and there's a line, and like to practice, you only get like 2 hours in the room, and people would just like stand there and watch you practice. Like 6 people just like looking at you practice.
Right, waiting for their turn.
Yeah.
Judging you and fuck that.
Yeah, it's literally like a war zone. Because you hear like, there's like this ambience of just like, yeah, it sounds like just rifles. Yeah. So it's hard to get over that, because that's not how music's supposed to feel. It's not meant to feel like it's like sometimes I wish it was a sport, because then you just win or lose. But it's not like that. It's subjective. It's beautiful.
Were you aware of that at the time?
Aware of
what your thoughts are on now? Like you were just kind of like, come on, this is just music. Why is it so?
No, I feel like I was definitely in the bubble there, and it took me a while to realize that.
To test it out, yeah.
Yeah, but I was skeptic of it, because coming from such great community here,
right?
Yeah, it was tough.
Right. When did you start gigging? How did that come about?
I started getting a couple of gigs here and there when I was in Boston, but it was never enough to sort of like completely take care of myself at all. But I would get little jazz brunch gigs or like a covers gig here and there, and I would like schlep my tiny $200 Sonar drum set that I bought in my suitcase and like walk it to gigs.
Yep.
And play for $50 and some eggs Benedict and the odd wedding there if it was lucky, because a wedding would pay like $400 or something like that, which I could make.
That scale is...
which could last me like on the college budget could last me like a long time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So who was some of your you had Terry Lynn Carrington was one of your
Terry.
teachers, yeah.
Terry was a big reason for a lot of things, but yeah, Terry. I tried to learn from everyone because there were such great teachers there. Kenwood Denard was a big influence on me. John Hazilla, he's like just teaches brushes.
Right.
He's like one of the best brushes teachers, along with Jeff Hamilton. So I learned a lot about the brushes from him.
Just on brushes, is Clayton Cameron still around? Is he?
Yeah, he's around. Does he teach? I
don't know if he teaches, but I just...
Yeah, because I know Omar Hakim is now the head of drums at Berklee.
Right.
Which is awesome.
That's awesome, right?
And I think maybe Clayton Cameron is there. If he is, that's cool, because he's like the brushes whiz, right?
He's the guy I used to watch and read a couple of his books.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I had also great, like my most important teachers weren't drum teachers, you know. Like I had a teacher called Alan Malay who played in Paul Simon's band for a long time, and I learned a lot about being in the studio and things like that from him, and playing songs and playing with a singer. not just worrying about like drums.
Right.
Yeah.
At Berklee, do they have like I know the music part of it, obviously, like the learning the jazz and that kind of thing. Was there a production element?
Yeah, there was, and if I went back, I would have done that.
Okay.
They have a great music production engineering course.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't part of what you were doing.
There's so many majors there, and I chose to do performance.
Okay, gotcha.
Which I kind of wish if I went back, I would have done music production engineering because they have such great. They have like a replica of Abbey Road. They have a replica of Avatar.
Right.
In New York, and they have so much gear and great teachers and how to, because those are the things that I'm way into now. And it's like, I wish I would have got the proper education in it, and I'm not just like watching YouTube tutorials. But music production engineering, they have a great electronic music course. Yeah, they have it's songwriting. They have a course just for lyric writing. They have electronic production. Analog synthesis, like modular synth course. They have so many cool things.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I did go back, I would do that.
Yeah.
Because you can play anywhere and just learn anywhere,
Yeah.
Your instrument.
Yeah.
You can spend $100 on a little tiny drum lockout and like just practice.
Mm-hmm. You had Michelle Indago cello.
Yes.
Come through and do like a masterclass.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right, and you got to play in that ensemble.
I did, yep.
Right, so how did that come about?
So I was learning from Terry Lynn Carrington. She was my teacher at that point for that semester. Maybe it was like my 5th or 6th semester. Mm-hmm. And I got an email from her. I remember it vividly. I was in a Starbucks in New York, Union Square, with my friend Cisco. And I got an email from her being like, hey, I'm putting together an ensemble of students for the Berklee Beantown Jazz Festival. And it's for Michelle Indago cello. She's coming to do a 3-day masterclass with an ensemble of Berklee students. You will learn her material and then you will play a set with her. Mm. I was like, oh, that's amazing. And I was stoked. And, she's one of my heroes.
I was going to say that. You would have had a fair bit of her music around.
Yeah, I did. Dad had Peace Beyond Passion, the CD, and I wore the shit out of that. So I was like, hell yeah. So I was stoked, and I obviously said yes. And then I think Michelle sent like a list of tunes to check out, and then I already knew a lot of her music, so I just checked out everything. And at that point, it was her new Nina Simone recording was out, which is an amazing album. It's a dedication to Nina. So I learned all the music, and then I sort of got together. There was 9 of us, 9 other students, and a good friend of mine. Here comes the A380. Oh, no, it's Virgin. I'll be on that in a week. A good, amazing drummer named Zach Mullings was also on that, so we shared the drum chair. Mm-hmm. And so I learned all the material. Then we got together as a band before Michelle came, just to like try and go over some stuff. And then she came to school, and we did 3 days of rehearsing, and then we played a gig. And yeah, we just had this connection straight away when we first met, and I didn't really know how to comprehend it. Honestly, at first, I was like, "Oh, is this real?" Mm. And she was very
with just you, or
yeah. I mean, like, and I feel weird to say it, but it was like we just had this connection, and she saw straight through me. It felt like she was like, "Are you Polynesian?" Like, does your dad play the bass? I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Tell me about you." And I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, let's get coffee across the street in between like the first break of rehearsal. And it was just nuts. And I told the guys and girls that were part of the ensemble, I was like, if we can make her play the bass in the first half an hour of us rehearsing, we've probably done that'll probably be good. And then like after the first song, she's like, oh, can I play bass? rehearsing, and I was like, okay, I think maybe we're doing, so, like after the second day, there was another jet. It kind of felt like this, felt like that. But after the second day, she asked me, she said, my drummer lives in Berlin right now, he's moved to Germany, and I need a drummer, are you down? I was like, oh, sure, I mean,
what?
I don't know, but really? That's okay, I guess, but that's not real. Like, this feels strange. I mean, it doesn't feel, it felt wrong. And it shouldn't have, but it was just like, I was like, okay. And then we just went back to rehearsal and did that for a few days, and we played the set of music at the jazz festival. And after it, I think I was so nervous, but after the gig, I asked for her mobile phone number and she gave it to me. And then we exchanged texts and she texted me back, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. And I remember being with my roommates, Martin and Freya, really good friends who are also from Australia. And she responded to me. She's like, what's your email? And I sent her my email, and then lo and behold, I got an email from her manager asking if I wanted to do a short tour. And I was like, yeah, of course. And then I remember that was like the first time I've ever been asked, like, okay, great. Like, what are your drum specs? What are your things? And I was like, what's that mean? I did like I was still in college, and I remember I came back over Christmas, and then it was a tour in January. So I went back, and then I did like 3, it was like a 4-gig tour, but I just did 3 of the 4 gigs. And they went really well. And I met Chris Bruce and Jevon Bruni, who've become like big mentors of mine. The first tour was only 4 gigs, but I only did 3 of them. And the rest of the band, I remember, were in the car on the last gig. And I think I was not coming on the next day because I was on the airport, and they were like, well, why didn't you get Abe for the last gig? And she was like, well, we just had to make sure Abe didn't suck first.
Did they call you in for the 4th gig?
And then from then on, I was cool. Yeah. But, yeah.
Bit of a contingency.
Because I think the 4th gig was New York, so she didn't want to play New York with me in case I sucked.
Okay. So who did she get to play for that? Her original?
I think that was Otto Hauser, who's an amazing drummer.
Right.
Yeah. In the planes. You want me to shut the window?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Post-production's magic.
Yeah, it's classic Sydney under the flight path, mate.
Just speaking of that, I interviewed David Jones.
On
the main
master.
Yeah, the main street of Marrickville.
Oh, yeah.
Outside coffee shop. Cars, motorbikes, planes. Oh, man. That interview in post-production, that's probably the most...
time you've spent?
No, I actually got to know how the noise gate works properly.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Which was great. And it ended up coming out really, really good. You can still hear the planes and stuff, but I can just sort of...
What noise gate you use? Like Logic, just the Logic one, or you just...
The Logic one, yeah. I've got the Waves Sheps.
Okay, cool.
Sheps plugin.
Yeah, Sheps.
With all the different modules in it, yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
He's good, all right. Okay, so when you've... I guess you've already answered that, how you kind of felt when you... Oh, okay, well, the end of that tour, right. Did you have any idea that there was going to be more gigs with Michelle after that? Or did you think it was just that short stint and then...
Well, yeah, I thought it might just be that short stint, but then she sent me the new album, which wasn't released, and she was like, learn it.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, fuck, okay. And I learned it, and I remember there's a couple tunes on it. There's a song called Friends, which is the first song on Comet Come to Me, and it was like, I didn't know where the hell one was. I didn't know. I still couldn't tell you where the one was. I remember freaking out over trying to learn it. But, I think I came back to school, and then I got asked like 2 weeks later to do a live recording in New York. So I was like, okay, cool. So I remember I took the train down from Boston. Usually I catch the $15 Chinatown bus, but I was like so stoked because they got me a train ticket, you know. Right. So I took the train down to do this recording. Yeah.
Right. How far from Boston to New York on the train?
on a train. Oh, well, on the bus it's probably like 4 to 5 hours depending on the traffic.
Right.
By train it's probably 3.5.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
The train's nice. It's chill.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So, all right. So that recording, that little recording.
Mm-hmm. Remember, I literally went down for it in the morning, and after recording, I took the train back to like make it to conducting class or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So, how far into Berklee was this? How far
this
did you
was
have to
like 3/4 of the way through, I'd say. So I think I was on like my 6th semester, and there's 8 semesters.
go? Right. Okay.
Yeah. So,
was there pressure to finish off your Berklee and then get out on tour, or?
Well, I mean, I didn't necessarily just have like some tours coming up. It was just like, like sporadic things here and there. And I know, being an Australian in America, that if you graduate in the States in college, you get 1 year. It's called OPT, and it gives you 1 year to practice whatever you've graduated in for free. In the country.
You don't need the visa.
Don't need a visa.
Oh, great.
And you can be paid.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to graduate so I can get that 1 year free.
Right.
And be able to take all the work if any work comes.
Right.
And I was just very lucky that when I graduated, I was working with Michelle. And then I decided to move to LA. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did that decision come about to move to LA? Is that where she's based?
Well, Michelle is based in between Brooklyn and Hudson, so New York, upstate and the city. So I moved to LA because Chris, who's in the band, and Jebin, who's in her band, there's the 4 of us, they live in LA and they sort of work with other artists too. Like, they don't just play with Michelle. Like, everyone's kind of open and does things as much as they can.
Right.
They were like, come out to LA and meet friends of ours and be around town because we would love you to be here.
Oh, awesome.
And also, it was closer to Sydney.
Right.
I mean, it's not close, but it's close to New York. So it's at least one hop on a flight, and it's got the beach. And I think if I was going to be anywhere sort of just struggling and like only having a few gigs here and there, like LA is where I want to be, because at least it's hot. I can eat cheap tacos and drink cheap beer and just kind of a bit more bang for your buck than just being like freezing cold in New York, kind of struggling.
Right.
I'd rather like struggle in the heat.
Mm.
So that's why I made that decision. And I had gone out to LA already because I had played out there with Michelle like 3 or 4 months before I moved out there, September 1st, 2014. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is when my lease was up in Boston.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, cool. What was the first gig you did in LA session?
First session I did? I mean, I can't remember the first session. Maybe the first big real session I did was with this guy, Doyle Bramhall.
Mm-hmm.
I played on his album.
Oh, right. Okay. Which album?
Rich Man, I think. Yeah.
Mm.
Whatever's not the most recent one, the one before that.
Okay.
That was like maybe my first, session of note, great, amazing studio space.
Right.
When I moved to LA, I was sort of like living on couches, then I found my own place eventually. But I'm trying to think when I first moved to LA. I'll wait for this plane to
Some good thinking music. Right.
What's that?
Good thinking music.
Yeah, it's good thinking music. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
All the planes are coming in now. I guess Seal was a big session. I played on his album when I moved to LA, and that was through Chris and Michelle's band, who's been like a long time collaborator with Seal, like played on the first 2 Seal records. I played on all the records. So he brought me in with Seal, and then for the first 1.5 years that I lived in LA, I did Seal and Michelle. I played in both of their bands until they got to a point where it was just like too much conflict and too busy, and I had to make a decision on who I really wanted to be with. And I'm very glad that I chose to stay with Michelle.
Yep.
Oops. Yeah, but yeah.
So the recording session with Seal, was he there?
He was.
Okay.
And so was Trevor Horn, his producer, who I'm a big fan of. And I think it was like, oh no, it was one song that made that album. And I remember doing a take. We did a couple of takes, and Trevor was like, oh, I'm going to go upstairs and comp a Seal vocal for another song. Like, you just record it. And he was like, tell me, Chris, if you think you guys get it. And I think we did a couple of passes, and then the second one, Chris was like, I think that's good. And Trevor came down. I never worked with him, never met him. And he was like, all right, cool, let's listen to it, but just mute everything. I just listen to it, solo drums. I was like, what?
Ouch.
Yeah, so he just listened to the whole song with no vocal, nothing, just the drums. And I was like, wow. You know, and I was trying to soak it all in because it's like, this is the golden hit guy. So we just sat there in the console with everyone and just sort of listened to the drums, which was like really, I mean, I'm not a big fan of listening back to myself anyway. So that was just like excruciating for me to sit there. But then after it, he was like, "Oh, it's cool. Let's just take out the first fill," and then that was it. Yeah. So that made it, which was cool.
Great.
Yeah, I guess that was a big first. Like, that was like a Union LA kind of session. That was at the Village, which is a great studio where Fleetwood Mac made Task and Steely Dan made Asia. You know, all those crazy. But I don't personally. It's a kind of a weird studio to me because they don't have any gear. You have to bring your own gear. I like studios that have like your own gear. Yeah. Well, like gear in terms of like amps and drums and keyboards and stuff like that. They don't have anything. Like you have to. They
have the console and outboard.
Yeah, they have all of that stuff. Obviously, like all beautiful mics and stuff.
Yeah, right.
But like,
because I've heard of that studios with just the space.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
but they're used to like having big people come in with all their own cars and all that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I don't have anything like that. But...
Yeah, that would have been a real eye-opener, seeing all that stuff.
Yeah, so I guess that was, so I've been in LA now for since 2014. Yeah, like 6 years, five and a half, 6, which is just flown by.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right.
Have you been to LA before?
I haven't. I've been to not America.
Okay. You haven't been? Okay. Good for you.
Just going back to Berklee. When you graduated and received the Alan Dawson Achievement Award. Right, so tell us a little bit about that and what that sort of...
Well, Alan Dawson is a legend in Boston, definitely, because he taught at Berklee. I think he came up with a lot of the curriculum, and he had like a very special thing called the Rudimental Ritual. He has a book which they based a lot of their curriculum on, and he's very well noted as being like the teacher of Tony Williams.
Oh, right.
And like Terry Lynn Carrington. He taught all these amazing drummers. And he was an incredible drummer himself, played with played in Sonny Rollins' trio. Mm-hmm. And he was like the master of technique, but like he was incredibly musical too. So I was very lucky. They have a little scholarship that's named after him at Berklee, and I got that in like my 6th semester, and it was great because I was kind of like struggling financially, and that picked up the rest of the scholarship that I...
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that was like huge. Because like when you're at Berklee, you can actually get other things that help, like financially, like aid, or like if you like get good grades, and if you're decent enough, like that one of the teachers there might nominate you for something like that. So I was very lucky.
So with that award, did you have any idea it was coming?
No, just like an email. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I remember just being like, woo!
Yeah.
It's like,
we're going out
beers
tonight.
on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I saw a video yesterday when I was trolling you. Yeah.
Trolling.
You were playing with Mike Elizondo, Jeff Babco, doing the Dilla, little Dilla workshop thing.
Oh, really? Does that exist online?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
That's quite funny because I have quite an apprehension when it comes to Jay Dilla, because when I went to Berklee, everyone was trying to play Jay Dilla beats.
Right.
You know, like Chris Dave is like the master at that, and like has changed a whole generation of how drummers sound. So like now everybody sounds like the quarter note, eighth note has shifted. Now it's like this broken shuffle thing. No one can play straight.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like it's great. And Jay Dilla is so amazing, but he did it with his fingers, you know, and it's like on an MPC. And I think it's become a little too overly saturated for me. So when I was at Berklee, I really made a decision not to go down that path and sort of eliminate that out of my vocabulary.
Right.
And then recently I got asked to do, there's this show called Live From Here, which is a live radio show on NPR in America. And I think it's the longest lasting variety show where they have comics and writers, and it's live radio to air, and there's a band, and like they play all sorts of sketches and they pay tributes to.
And the host plays.
Yeah, it's this guy, Chris Thiele, who's incredible. So I've been very lucky to be asked to be in the house band for like 4 or 5 of these shows.
Oh, cool.
I'm actually doing one in New York on February when I get back. And I'll wait for this plane, I guess. It's pretty hard to noise gate a plane, I guess.
I guess it's... I think...
I have to watch some Andrew Shep's tutorials on noise gating planes.
Maybe I'll do a tutorial.
You can send it to me.
Yeah, in the podcast. How do you do it in the podcast?
But that particular one was in Detroit, and it was a tribute to Smokey Robinson. Obviously, Detroit, the Motor City, home of Motown. Mm-hmm. So there was a segment that was a tribute to Smokey Robinson, Motown, and Mike Elizondo was playing bass, who's an incredible producer who's done a lot of amazing hip-hop records, obviously.
Yeah, that would have been a trip in itself.
That's a trip, yeah. I mean, Mike
Elizondo's... He's Dre's man. You know?
Yeah, he's legend. Like,
he's legend, yeah.
Yeah, like all those bass lines and hooks, some Eminem records, and the Dre Chronic, all that. So he called me and he was like, oh, look, I think I want to do a Jay Dilla thing. And I was like, oh, here we go. I just copped it because I've like spent so long trying not to do it.
Were you telling everybody you weren't doing Dilla? Take it out of your playing?
And it's funny because I told Michelle and she was like, Mike wants to do a Jay Dilla segment on Live From Here, and she just laughed at me because she's like, just knows that's not
right.
She calls Abe Skippy, like Abe doesn't play the Skippy beats. So I was like, okay, fuck it, like I'm just gonna have to do it. So I spent like 2 days in my room just playing Jay Dilla beats, like trying to get that neck crack happening.
Yep. And
then I went to Detroit, and like that gig's really intense. Like you get the music one night before it.
Right.
All of it. Luckily, he gave me a tip on the Jay Dilla, so he sent me a playlist of that stuff.
Right.
But you get all the music the day before it. You arrive in the city, and then you have an 8-hour rehearsal on the Friday, and then you have Saturday a 4-hour rehearsal in the morning at like 8 a.m. and then like it's live. You play the show live.
Right.
And there's like it's like basically 40 minutes of music, you know, and there's just like 20 songs and like little 30-second jams and this and that and things you have to write down. You have to read the script because then they want a chime cymbal when the comedian says the little sketch about Trump or whatever, you know, to make, you know, and you just got to be on the ball and it's live, so you can't fuck up. So it's highly stressful anyway, but yeah, we did that Jay Dilla thing, and it was great with Mike because he understands that music so well.
Well, he explained it well too. He explained.
Yeah, right. He told how the beat was made and how he did it. And
now Abe's going to show you how to.
Yeah, Abe's going to show you from Australia to Bush, nowhere near Detroit. He's going to show you how to play Jay Dilla beat.
The guy that doesn't like to play Jay Dilla beat.
So I kind of cheated a little bit, and I spent a lot of time playing. I mean, that's the best way to learn that stuff is to literally put it on, blasting in your headphones, just play along to it.
Yeah.
And I did that. I just did that for ages, and then I got kind of a sense of it, and then we did it. I think it's not too bad. Yeah.
Did you play that stuff to a click?
No.
No
clicks.
Yeah. Well done. Sounded fucking awesome.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Thanks.
When Dilla was putting that stuff down, do you think he was playing to a click?
No.
Completely not.
No. He would just make the beat.
Do you think it was intentional from Dilla?
Yeah, I think that's just how he felt the beat. Yeah. That's how he heard it.
Yeah,
that's why he's a genius.
Yeah,
I heard that he did the snares first.
Right,
that's what Mike said. I think he explains it in that, from what I remember. But also Jeff Babko, shout out to him. He's hilarious.
Oh man, yeah, legend, eh?
I played on his last solo record, and
right.
It was fun. Like, I don't usually play sort of instrumental showcase of drum vibes much more anymore, but it was fun, and had a good time. And he's hilarious, so he's good on that show, like, because he's like this hilarious person.
Yeah.
So he can play all those funny bits.
Yeah, was it a sample of was it Rocky?
Yeah.
Was a Rocky sample in there?
One of the Jay Dilla songs.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool, man. You also did a session not long ago with Blake Mills and Pino.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was definitely a huge highlight of mine, just to be in a room with those three and play.
Yep.
Blake's incredibly gifted musician and producer, and he's a real. He respects the sonics of music and making a record so meticulously, and Pino is just like incredible. It's just the best, and he feels the bass and hears the bass in a way that's just very singular, and that's why he's on so many recordings.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to play with him was amazing, and just to try and soak in a bit of that vibe, and to hear Pino track the bass in person and feel it, and
watch it.
Yeah, watch it and hear it, and just
watch that head.
And he played a lot of fretless.
Oh, wicked!
And that was sick to just sit there and just have goosebumps while he was like figuring out a song, and like, well, maybe I'll play this, and it was to tape, so there was no like it. When you work with tape, it takes a little longer, So.
Yeah, some of my favourite Pino stuff. Have you heard of PSP?
Yeah, that was with
Simon Phillips and
Manu.
Nah, it was
Simon.
Sace.
Right. Oh wait.
What's his name?
And Dominic Miller, right?
No, it was a trio. Filippo Sace, I think his name is.
Okay.
Simon Phillips and Pino.
Oh, cool.
It's this trio. I'll find the stuff. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Please.
It's really cool. Just he plays little Fender Jaguar bass.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Plays a bit of fretless in it, but with Simon Phillips next to him, and it's cool.
Sick.
Yeah. And Sace is playing this Moog synth that sounds so great. It's one of those. It's a short EP. It's one of those EPs that I just had on repeat for days.
Right.
It's one of those things for me. Yeah.
You're gonna freak when Pino's, because he's just made an album with Blake. Blake produced it, and I heard it, and it's gonna blow everyone.
It's a solo thing.
It's Pino's first solo album. It's gonna destroy.
These things take time, eh?
They take time. Yeah, I think it was done like 6 months ago.
Yeah, right.
And I was actually like really bummed because I was on tour and Blake asked me to play on that, so I was gone. But that's fine. That's just what happens. I heard it, and it's fucking incredible. And every muso in the world is going to lose their mind when they hear it.
Right.
Because it's just no. I'll just wait.
I'll just wait. Yeah. Won't give anything away.
It's very musical.
Yeah, that's great. Right, let's talk about Jake and Abe.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. So it's a little band, I'm not going to say duo, but it's a band. You guys are a band.
Yeah.
How did that come about? And how did you meet Jake?
Cool.
Yep.
So Jake is an incredible songwriter himself, and he's an incredible musician. The main thing is he plays the organ, and he plays all kinds of keys. And I met him through Michelle. Michelle got Jake to play organ on this art piece we did called The Gospel of James Baldwin for the Fire Next Time. And we performed this as a piece at the Harlem Stage in New York. And basically Michelle has written all this amazing music to the words of the great poet James Baldwin. and we needed an organ. And Michelle was like, I got this great young organ player who went to Berklee. And I was like, awesome. I love Jake. I was a fan of his.
Right.
And I was a fan of his songs already. And we were at Berklee together, but it's funny, we didn't know each other at all.
Oh, right.
It's not till after that I discovered his music.
Right.
And that's how big Berklee is. So we met on this gig, and like immediately we just like hit it off. And, you know, he's kind of similar age to me, and I've always played with musicians who are older than me in professional situations really all my life. So it was nice to connect with somebody kind of like around my sort of age. And I love one of his songs, and he taught me how to play. He's very giving with his gifts. He's not one that's like, you know, he's like, oh, you want to learn that? It's this.
That's cool.
So he taught me one of my favorite songs of his, and then we were like, oh, let's try and write a song. We wrote a song, and we were like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then he came to LA for some stuff, and then I was like, come over, and we wrote another song, and they're like, oh, why don't we just make a band? And we just started making songs.
Great.
And at first it was kind of just like this, it was like, to me, it was kind of like this piss take, like just funny thing that I could just get some ideas of like real life experiences into songs, but then it kind of became more serious.
Yeah. And
it's just turned into a really fun thing, and it's been really enjoyable for me to have a little creative outlet outside of just making music for other people and trying to doing my best for other people's art. It's been nice to make a little something on my own. And I mean, I make a lot of music by myself that no one hears, but I don't get it finished. So that's the goal of mine this year, is to finish a lot of my own stuff. But cool. Having a collaborator and someone like Jake who works really hard, it's really kicked me in the butt, and it's great to have things that I'm finishing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a good time for chip, mate.
Yeah.
Get this over. Never thought of that.
Time for the honey for chips. Yeah, but Jake's just such a nice person.
Mm. So you guys have got 4 songs out?
Mm-hmm.
Mm. That song, It's Easy.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Oh, thank you.
Real hooky, catchy. The video's great.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to give it away, but when I was watching that video, I'm going, where would you come up with this idea of a cafe and all this shit going on? But you need to watch it to the end. And then
that's my really good friend Zoe Travis. Mm-hmm. She lives in LA, and she's an amazingly gifted actress and like kind of a comedian too. She's a hilarious person, and she is a great writer. And she came up with that concept for that video after hearing the song once, and was like, I've got an idea for a video. My friend has a camera, and we can just get some people together and do it. Great. And we did it. And like shout outs to Zoe and Daniel for doing that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's funny.
Oh, cool.
It's got
Thanks.
a cool vibe, yeah. What's your approach to studio playing now that you're doing sort of more studio stuff?
Well, yeah. It's
how has it changed, like, say, in the last couple of years?
That's a good question. Well, I think I've learnt more and more about making records and playing the drums in the studio, and not only just the drums, but making music in the studio over the last couple of years for sure. Playing live and being in the studio is totally different. Totally different approaches. I've always felt like I've been stronger playing live. Something about playing in front of an audience puts me into a state, like, I don't know, just that added adrenaline gets me into a different place. Mm-hmm. I've actually trying harder the last couple of years to harness that in the studio. Right. Because I feel like I would get to a place where it's like, oh, well, I need to come up with this part. It needs to be like this and this and that. And now I'm sort of taking more approach to of just like trying to be as free as possible in the studio. A bit more chill. And try and like, because out of that comes a little bit more spontaneity, and you might play things that aren't so calculated. Yeah. And you don't want to be too calculated in the studio. That's what I'm realizing. Otherwise things would just start sounding monotonous. Yep. So I've really been trying to take the approach of listening really hard and not being afraid to go for things in the studio, and and not being afraid of being being super metronomic, like not trying to be super metronomic, and be free and elastic as you would be playing on the street. I understand. So you can get some of that feeling in a recording. And if it doesn't work, you just do it up, do some other things because that's what Pro Tools is these days.
Yeah.
But also for like the nerdy drumming side of it, like I never in the studio would put my own, like the drums in my headphone mix. Because I always thought that, the drums are just too loud in general. Like, why do I need to put them in my headphones? And now, like, it was only like a couple of years ago, I'll thank a drummer named Ted Poor, who's an amazing drummer, that he was like, no, you have to put your mix in your headphones, like your drums in loud. That way you play soft. And then the microphones do the job.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you beat a drum in the studio, it's just like, not only do you like if you're playing together in a room, it just bleeds everywhere, but it just takes up so much sonic space.
Yep.
And you get so much more tone out of an instrument when you play it soft, and then you allow the microphones to like pick up the natural tone.
Yeah.
When you're not bashing something.
There's a reason that's a $20,000 microphone.
Exactly. And there's a lot of great engineers I've been able to work with who I've learned a lot from in that regard, like how sound and compression and how to approach playing a room in a studio works. And like I should shout them out, like Pete Min, Justin Stanley, someone who Husky Huskolds, then somebody who really enjoy working with, David Boucher, who he does all the Disney movies like Frozen, Coco, like he's recorded them all, like, and you know his job is to record a 90-piece orchestra and all this stuff.
Wow, yeah.
He does all the Randy Newman's records, and he's such a beast in the studio, and he's part of the band, and that's why they get the big bucks as engineers, because they like can just pull a sound, and it's like, yeah, you don't have to work hard in the mix either. But like working with David, I did an album with this amazingly talented young woman named Madison Cunningham. We made this album a year ago in the desert, and that's when I realized the power of like an incredible engineer and just how I could turn myself up in the cans and like everything sounded great. And he was like, just play soft, and I would play brushes and everything would get picked up, and we would just use one mic, and I was just like, that's when I just discovered like, oh, you know?
Yeah.
And that's really changed my whole approach.
Yeah.
And but I'm just learning so much all the time, and I'm so grateful to be in LA and be around all these folks that like we all admire, you know?
Yeah.
I'm so lucky to have a little hint of that. I'm trying not to take that for granted at all and just soak it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not so much a drummer now as you are just an all-out musician.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a moment where things changed for you from just, oh, geez, I'm not just a drummer here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more than me.
Yeah, it's been.
Was there a moment where that happened, or it just kind of?
Yeah, I mean, there's been moments where I've been on gigs and I'm playing. I'm like, I'm actually not enjoying this, and I've really made a decision now to like try and just play in situations that I really want to be there, even if there is no bread and I'm gonna have to take a hit. And I'm also enjoying writing songs and learning other instruments and like the challenge of playing live with Jake and Abe. And like I've never felt this kind of nerves before a gig like I do now when I'm playing my own gigs with Jake.
Oh, that's cool.
And singing and stuff. And that's like, that's a good sign, I think, to like have that energy as opposed to like, I mean, I still get nervous playing the drums, but like just to have that new, just to do new things, new excitement,
that new human experience, hey.
And I've been doing like also working a lot with Michelle and then getting into like the film and TV world. I've been doing a lot of TV scoring over the last 4 years. Like we score a TV show together.
Right.
And it's about to go to its 5th season.
Scoring from a writing?
Yeah, like basically all the background music to a TV drama that I've been doing with Michelle and Chris and Jebin together, and I've been engineering it and mixing it, which is like cool. Just been really a great challenge for me, and like I've just been learning stuff a lot about that, and I enjoy it. And I think that's something I want to do more of. I just did another little thing that's coming out on Netflix in February with my friend Larry Goldings, who's an incredible piano player and composer, and he asked me to do some like funny again Jay Dilla style remixing of some cues that he wrote for this show called Madam C.J. Walker that's coming out on Netflix. And the TV world is so funny, you know, because there's like 25 people who have to say yes to the end product, you know. So It's not just like making, you know, your own music or anything like that. There's like so many people that have to yes things. And
so it's got through past all those.
Well, yeah, I mean, poor Larry, this show is set in 1910, and it's about the first black woman in America to be a millionaire in 1910. And she made hair products. And she's played by Octavia Spencer, and all the music they wanted in it was like period music from 1910, 20. So there's a lot of ragtime, old blues, kind of like Jelly Roll Morton, Blind Blake stuff. So he did all this amazing music with like all these old musicians he found and recorded it. And then like after they heard it, they're like, oh, this is great. We're going to use all this. But you think you could like make it sound a little bit more modern too? We really like Jay Dilla. And he was like, what? So I was very fortunate. He gave me a call, and I was like, okay, I can try it, because he knows I do TV stuff with Michelle. So I did I took all of his stems that he recorded, like of old clarinets and him playing stride piano, and I just made some beats to them and stuff, and they dug it. So that's cool.
Oh, great.
But it's like a whole another world too. Like there's so many different pockets of things musically. And yeah, I'm enjoying trying to be a part of a lot of all those things.
Yeah, I think you need to wear a lot of hats these days, eh?
Totally.
To survive, you know?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're in the right place, LA.
Yeah, La La Land.
La La Land.
It can be full of shit.
Well, what's been
full
the
of shit in ways, but like after being there for 6 years, like I've managed to make really good friends just with people who are, you know, that I love, and it's genuine, you know.
What do you mean? Expand on the full of shit.
Oh, it's just Hollywood, and you know.
Okay, it's that thing.
You know, people always. I mean, it could be said for anywhere, but especially there, it's just like, what can you do for me? And
that's all. Okay, it's all that.
Who are you, and what have you done? And you know, you walk into a bar and somewhere in Hollywood that's cool, and this is like no one looks you in the eye, and everyone's kind of worried about who's here. You know, It's a bit more about that, and you know that exists, and there's a way to navigate around that. And I remember I was watching and listening to an interview of David Lynch. Someone asked him, like, what's the key to success in LA? And he was like, eye contact.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, wow, that's such a cool take on it. But,
yeah. What about gear? Drums.
Drum gear. Let's talk about drum gear.
Let's talk about drum gear. Playing with Michelle and you know, she's pretty high profile. Do you get people coming to you wanting you to endorse their products? Does it work like that?
To be honest, no drum company has ever approached me.
Okay.
Which is cool. I'm not a big drum gear head as much as I used to be in my teenage years.
Yep.
Now I sort of just play whatever. And I guess my favorite, I'd like to say I'm endorsed. My favorite company is Backline Drums. Like
Backline Drums.
Backline Drums are my favorite.
That's great. You just make them work.
Just make it work, man. It's in the hands. Try to feel like it's in the hands. But
that's cool.
I do play innovative design sticks, innovative percussion, and they have a lot of cool different. I like just like how many different brushes and mallets they have. It's all like really useful in the studio.
Yep.
And I have an old Trixon drum set from the 50s, which is a German drum set, and they made these sort of like Salvador Dali drums, looking drums, but they have this one that's sort of like the bottom head size is smaller than the top, so like they're like cannon drums.
Right.
So I have a set of those, and they look really cool, and they sound cool, and they're pink.
Did Trixon also make that bass drum that kind of looks like a blob.
Yeah, exactly. The Salvador Dali looking.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And that's a cool drum set. And I saw that and I was like, no one has that, so I'm going to buy that.
Right.
And CNC made me some drums for the Seal when I played with Seal.
Okay.
They made 2 drum sets. And the cymbals that I love playing right now is this guy in Portland. He makes cymbals, and his name of the company is Cymbal and Gong. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't give any cymbals away, and I just buy them. But he makes replicas of like 60s, 50s, Ks and As and stuff, and they're really cool. They sound really good, warm and buttery. But I've been getting into really bright stuff lately too. Like, it's all, I don't know. Sometimes it's just like if you put Steve Jordan on some buckets, like it's gonna sound good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, there was a video on Instagram because Steve Jordan I'm not sure if it's his partner. They have an Instagram account now.
Yeah, the verbs.
Oh, that's the band, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, is that his partner? I guess.
I'm not sure. Yeah. But there's one video and he's playing in this looks like a guitar shop on this old beat up drum set.
Oh, cool.
Fuck, it sounds great.
Yeah.
It sounds fucking Steve Jordan, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely a master, eh?
Yeah.
That's somebody who's like managed to transcend the drums in a way and like he's just like a total musician powerhouse, like producer.
A producer as well, yeah.
Just understands it.
Do you play like corporate gigs, wedding gigs and stuff when you need to back home, or?
I'm so fortunate that I haven't done a wedding gig in a long time, and I've done my fair share.
I had to ask that one.
And yes, I have not, but I have done my fair share.
Yep.
Don't worry about that. But no. Now, if I feel like I'm not busy, I stay home and just try and write and eat tacos.
Good stuff. So what's the rest of 2012? Oh, fuck.
12. No, that's cool.
We got to go back.
2020, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
What do you got going on 2020?
2020, well, I made a decision to myself to quote Michelle, your yes means nothing if you can't say no. So I'm trying to make a decision to just sort of focus on things I really want to do, a la my band with Jake and Abe, finishing my own solo project, which I've recorded a little bit of, but I still need to sort of navigate what it is and finish it. And playing with Michelle, and then just being around in LA and available to play on recordings and maybe try and get into a field of writing some more music for picture and trying to involve myself in some more art creative endeavors that I'm involved with as an artist myself. And if that bites me in the bum financially, so be it. But I want to really sort of make that a priority now while I still can. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Talk next year.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. All right, Abe Rounds, thanks so much for sitting with me on the podcast and chatting
Stevie.
and telling me all about your stuff. It's really cool, man.
I appreciate it.
Glad we got the time to catch up before you head home. Yeah, that was really cool.
And I thank you, and I hope some gang from Sydney, like they can sort of just hear my story and like just kind of take from it as best they can. And I don't know, just I'm trying to be as giving as I can.
That's great.
I've been very fortunate to come out of this great scene here and like be able to sustain myself as a musician. And it's only because of all the people here that I've been around with, and I'm just very grateful.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Thanks, bro.
Cheers, Abe.
Cheers.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah.
Party life is a selfish endeavor. It burns on like an American spirit cigarette. Take it all the way up. And who can I turn to when I get this way? Yourself in your feelings too. And maybe the answers are inside myself all along. Not with you. Take it all the way up. It's in the mothers and the descents. It's in the water in your system. It's not an ordinary mystery. It's a pretentious rush of blood. Take it all the way.